my friends, the great experiment.
The crew doesn't hate the XO, then he's not doing his job.
Good hunting is what you say.
It's part of the pattern, part of the plan.
Are they the lucky ones? That's what you're thinking, isn't it?
Welcome to Greatest Trek, Hot Cylon Summer. It's a new Star Trek podcast from the makers of The Greatest Generation. I'm Ben Harrison.
I'm Adam Pranica. You see that thirst trap photo I posted to the Instagram?
Yeah, a lot of people in the comments like, is that Adam? Hubba hubba.
I got my wife to take that picture, and she's like, don't you want to show your birdie or whatever? And I was like, no, like as little as possible. This is about selling towels, not me.
Sex sells, Adam, and I mean, just those arms are selling that towel.
You know what was a relief is like, you and I both do this, I know. Like, we buy our own merch to QA it. And when I bought the Hot Cylon Summer towel, I was like, this better be a good towel. I'm going to feel like shit if we're selling bad towels out there. But I used it, and I laundered it. It's a good towel. And I'm not trying to sell towels during the marathon of our show. I'm just, like, trying to express a relief more than anything that we didn't do a bad thing. That's kind of like what this episode is about. Like,
Sure.
Right? I'm trying to unburden myself, Ben.
Right. You wouldn't want to have to make "we sold a bad towel" the subject of your act of contrition.
I know. Yeah. Yeah, that would be a very different feeling to this introduction.
Hey, I got a thing that I wanted to throw this out there to the Friends of DeSoto. Get a little take of the temperature from our adoring public, Adam. I talked, I think, on our last episode of Greatest Trek about my dental situation.
Oh, yeah. On the hit segment, What's Wrong with Ben This Time? I can't wait to hear the intro to that segment, by the way.
We've been discussing what to do about this to prevent my tooth from falling out. And new suggestion from the dentist is a course of Invisalign to like shove it back up in there, because partly it needs that, but then I'll also get a denture at some point to like stand in for the tooth I was having installed permanently.
Right.
But he asked me in the process of getting this Invisalign, do I want the gap between my two front teeth closed? And this is something I'd never really given much thought to.
And you were like, how about we concentrate on procedures that don't risk sending me to the hospital in an ambulance or like that you can actually complete, doctor.
Right, exactly. So, but I'm curious to hear if the Friends of DeSoto are pro-gap or anti-gap.
I cannot believe you would outsource this. You're insane.
Well, I like living in a world where I know I've disappointed someone because it just feels right.
What do you want? Because I know the Friends of DeSoto are going to say whatever it is that they prefer, completely unrelated to what you want. Do you have a side?
I think I don't. That's the thing is like I really try to search my feelings, and I definitely have had times in my life where I was maybe a little self-conscious about the gap. But, you know, we've been through eras since then where like, you know, runway models famously had gaps in their front teeth. So, you know, and I'm no runway model, but I've come to accept it as a part of life. And I never really thought that there was going to be an opportunity. You know, I wasn't going to go out of my way to close the gap.
Oh, sure. That would be self-care.
Right, exactly. Now I'm going through this thing where it's like, I'm going to be doing this anyway, and it can close the gap or it can not close the gap. Those are the two options. And it's like even money in terms of which I pick from a medical standpoint. So,
Ben, my theory is when you stop caring about your personal appearance, especially like with respect to the tooth gap, that's like the trimming of your own bangs emotionally. I really want you to care either way. I really do. It's not vain to have a preference.
Maybe I've like truly eradicated my ego in like the Eastern philosophy sense. And you know, it's like, who even gives a shit, man?
Oh my gosh, you're ascending! I pretended to be finding myself for so long. I guess I actually did.
God, if Only I could believe that. Not a chance.
Have you seen the stand-up special by Sheng Wang? Sweet and Juicy. That opening bit about buying pants at Costco as an act of like achieving true enlightenment is maybe one of my favorite chunks of stand-up in the last couple of years.
This is truly a mouth pants situation you've got going. Which will you choose?
It's two things I want people to vote on. A, should I close the gap? And B, should I buy pants at Costco?
Is Ben's mouth more store brand or true religion? You decide on our brand new social media poll. Wow.
Yeah, use hashtag #DatGap if I should keep it, and hashtag #MindTheGap if I should get rid of it.
Here's what I'm going to say. You didn't ask, but you want to know what my vote is?
I want to hear your vote.
Close the gap. And you want to know why?
Wow.
It's clearly something that's been on your mind as a thing, like as a third party, like it's a thing that has occasionally bothered you. I don't want it to bother you anymore. So that's why that's my vote.
Well, and also every time we get in a swimming pool together, I'm always shooting squirts of water between my front teeth at you.
Yeah, I don't love that. Not one bit.
Yeah, well, maybe soon that ability of mine will go away.
I'm shocked that your fucking dentist, which is what I should call him from now on, instead of doing like hey, we can like attach that loosey tooth to the tooth next to it using like a bridge or something, wants to sell you Invisalign instead. Way to upsell this fucking guy.
Yeah, he comes from the ABC School of Dentistry. I think he's a good dentist.
Oh, you're a great lead, Ben. Tell you what, you're top of the fucking stack. You are a Glengarry lead all the way. Like they talk about you at orthodonture conventions.
Yeah, you can sell this guy land in Florida while doing dentures on him.
Do not kill the goose with the golden mouth. We gotta keep him coming back.
These are the Glengarry leads. And to you, they're gold.
Well, we keep coming back to Caprica, etc.
Yeah.
Adam, do you want to check out this episode of Battlestar Galactica?
Love to, Ben. As Hot Cylon Summer continues on with Battlestar Galactica Season 1, Episode 4, Act of Contrition.
Never had a death on my hangar deck. Accidents. Never a death.
Okay, Adam, I noticed something in the last time on, or it's not even the last time on. There's that thing where it's like humans created Cylons, Cylons rebelled. The titles pop up on the screen telling you the premise of the show at the beginning of every episode. And I noticed something for the first time in this one that I hadn't noticed before, which is that Grace Park is being flopped on one of the two shots of her, because they put two shots up of her side by side, one as Boomer on Battlestar Galactica and the other as Boomer on Caprica. And she has a little mole under one of her eyes, and it's under the other eye in one of the shots. And I am wondering, are they flopping all of the shots on Caprica that she's in?
Oh, I wish I knew to look for that before I watched this episode.
Well, so I noticed it in the cold open of this episode, and then I was like, fuck, I got to pay attention to that. And then all of the Caprica stuff in this episode happens at night, and you can't fucking see shit.
Yeah.
So something to pay attention to for future. And I wish I'd noticed it earlier, because I wish I knew. But that was the most noteworthy thing about the intro for me this time.
I wonder if Grace Park knew when she stood for the turn to camera hero pose that was going to be in the beginning of every single episode during. Like, I think it's probably good direction not to tell the person that's how it's going to be used. Because that is a lot of weight to bear, I think.
It could just be that they flopped that one shot because they wanted symmetry in those two turn to camera hero pose moments.
Yeah, yeah.
But and they get that, but I'd also be surprised if this show did that and not the other thing in a way.
Well, I'm famously the type of husband that, when tested for things like what color are my eyes, will take way too long to answer a question like that. I think if I'm Hilo, I'm just avoiding answering the question, what side is my mole on? For the good of the relationship, I think that's important.
Yeah.
And also for the good of the relationship, stop asking trick questions like that. Our relationship isn't a quiz. I pay attention to some things.
I know how you like your coffee and like how you like your burger cooked.
Yeah.
Do I have to know the color of your eyes?
Come on.
I'm a good person to tell your like deepest, darkest secrets to because I will immediately forget them.
We should publish those episodes one day. All the stuff that gets cut out of me telling you secrets, and then those just poof.
Huh? Yeah, like water off a duck's back. They just flow off of my brain.
It's important to know that this is the kind of episode that drops in a bunch of footage that leads to a place at the very end. There's probably a term for this.
Non-linear narrative or disrupted narrative.
It's like flashing forward and flashing back, and then it'll flash back from within flashbacks sometimes.
Right. The footage that gets blurped in throughout the episode is Starbuck in the process of crashing and ejecting from a Viper.
Yeah, and it's real scary. We cut to the hangar where a Raptor pilot has returned from a Mish, and it's a very celebratory thing. This guy goes by Flattop.
Hey, Flattop! 1,000 landings! Woo! Woo!
They're butterflying some hot dogs and putting them right on him. And Chief Tyrol is pissed because he didn't know that this was going to be this guy's 1,000th landing, and this is something that is a big tradition to celebrate.
Flattop's 1,000th landing. Nobody tells me. Now we look like idiots.
Do you think that that's because the chief doesn't attend the pilot meetings?
You got to attend the pilot meetings if you're the chief.
But I'm thinking the chief, by rule, doesn't attend those meetings. He's running the flight deck. I think this is not Chief Tyrol's fault, is what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Like, he feels bad, like someone not read into a celebration should feel bad, but
right.
This poor guy's playing catch-up the whole time with the wagon.
Is Chief Tyrol one of 3 or 4 chiefs that this flight deck has? Like, is there a rotation? Is he like first shift chief or...
I haven't seen any other chiefs around.
Yeah.
Why isn't anyone accusing him of being a Cylon? With all the hours he works.
And why, despite the number of times it's happened, does he never tell David Letterman to quit calling him chief?
Stop calling me chief. Good grief.
We may never know, but he gets a hamper ready for the jubilant pilots to push Flattop around in. And meanwhile, Starbuck and Apollo, it looks like are painting a commemorative flight helmet for this guy that they're getting ready to take down to the flight deck. And I would say having a little flirt while they're doing this.
You know what's great is the teacher energy that Commander Adama comes into the room with. Like, you think these kids are going to be in trouble for fucking off while the teacher's not looking. And like
Right.
they get all nervous and they spill the paint they're using on this helmet. But no, Commander Adama's like into the vibes. Like, he's there to celebrate too.
He is going to walk down with them to the flight deck. And we're now intercutting between the stroll down to the flight deck and the jubilant pilots down there, and also cutting to a missile that is like up on a rack of missiles, and its ratchet straps are starting to fail Cliffhanger style.
If it were Cliffhanger style, there'd be like a glove on the ratchet strap that's like coming out. Why is there a glove on the ratchet strap?
Yeah. I went to summer camp the year that Cliffhanger came out, and there was like a rock climbing class that I was in, and
oh no.
all they did was talk about how it was not realistic in Cliffhanger the way the climbing equipment would fail all the time.
God,
like it was just a class full of kids who were like, this is how you fall to your death thousands of feet, right? And they're like, no, no, no.
It's like taking a canoe class the year Jaws came out. That's uncomfortable.
Yeah.
That is an ominous rack of missiles, isn't it?
It sure is. And nobody's minding the missiles. And I love that when it falls, it doesn't just fall, but it like turns on and goes.
That's my favorite part of this scene, is that it isn't just like a pressure detonator or a magnetic detonator or anything like that. This thing slaps against the floor and then shoots at Flattop. It's a direct hit!
Headshot.
As far as you can tell, it hits him directly in his helmeted head. Actually, it's not helmeted. That helmet should have gotten there in time, right?
I mean, if he'd had the helmet, maybe he would have stood a chance. I love the missiles point of view camera shot.
Yeah.
Like Predator camming toward the celebration.
Oof, what a scene. And with the ring of other pilots celebrating around the hamper, like a lot of good folks went down that day.
Yeah, they were unfortunately danger close.
We will be reunited in a better world to come.
We cut back to Starbuck crashing on re-entry and then back, and there's like a safety inspector who's doing like an investigation of what happened, and Chief Tyrell does not seem to have been, taken off duty or put on any kind of administrative leave or anything. He's just walking around going like, damn, well, I guess there's a first time for everything. Never had anyone die on my watch. Now 13.
Yeah, I mean, when you go to the sign that says this flight deck has gone this many days without an accident, like, you don't account for a single day with many, many accidents, right? Like, do you think we should get more granular with that statistic?
Maybe it's that you have to leave the 0 up for that many days.
Yeah, because I think you want to give each victim of this workplace accident their own day. I think that's fair.
That's just, it would be very disrespectful not to. So Tyrell's going to have to look up at that 0 for like 20 days now. Interesting
Point about the type of missile that exploded in this scene. This is a recon drone, and it's a good thing too, because if this thing was an actual missile, it would have blown the whole compartment up and killed many, many more people.
Recon drone explosive as hell, turns out.
In the same way that Chief Tyrell remains on shift, there is a pilot meeting in the pilot meeting room right after, where Apollo tells the remaining handful of qualified pilots about the funeral arrangements. And then he just has a hard time coming up with the words. And I'm like, Apollo, save that for the funeral. This isn't the funeral. You don't need the words right now. What are you doing?
The words will come when they have to come. They don't have to come right now.
What are you going to do? Say the words now and then say the same words later? That's going to suck.
Yeah, it's like you hear the comedian working out the material, and then when you see it in the special, you're like, I mean, like, this is a better version of, but also, like, it just doesn't hit as hard because I kind of know all the premises. It's like, oh, there's a new tag. That's cool,
If you don't have the words, Ben, the best person to have those words is Commander Adama, and he walks in here, and he's got them all. He knows just what to say.
I know this has been a hard day. There's been plenty of them lately. I can guarantee you there'll be more to come.
The tragedy was hella senseless, and, this is a real morale killer, and it wouldn't be an episode of Battlestar Galactica without one of those.
Or a flashback and flash forward number of sequences in the same episode, because in addition to Starbuck punching out of her Viper, we get scenes of flashback to the time right after Zach Adama's death.
Right.
And this looks like the very first time Commander Adama has ever met Starbuck.
Right, they're out on like a field, like outside somewhere, where she's standing by a Viper, and she's like, "Oh, like I meant to come talk to you before the funeral," and we get like flashbacks to the funeral. We get flash forwards to the funeral for these 13 pilots that died. We are cutting around willy-nilly. We're getting flashes to a time that she had sex with Zach Adama.
We get to see the main thing that Apollo does at funerals, which is like stick little trinkets on top of caskets. And you better believe that all of these caskets remain closed on the Battlestar here, because that drone really did some gross damage, I think.
Yeah. If Apollo is good for one thing, it's putting a little trinket on a casket. If he's good for two things, it's working his jaw muscles while he's putting a little trinket on a casket.
I mean, speaking of working jaw muscles, he's not the only brother in that family who is exceptional in that field, because Zach, in this flashback, I mean, it's striking. At one point, he was so alive, so virile. And it's clear this was one Starbuck who received a grande-sized refreshment most of the time.
Venti's a little bit much.
Hey, speaking of Venti, did they Venti those caskets out into space? Because you see that door close to the casket room. Seems like something's going on there, but we don't ever see what happens.
It seems dangerous to leave bodies for the Cylons to find, right?
Yeah.
Then again, space is really big, so maybe it's not such a big problem.
Yeah, you get a zombie Cylon Flattop coming back at you. Very horrifying.
Flattop shows up on Caprica, and Boober and Hilo are like, "Flattop, amazing! You made it too!"
Doesn't anyone realize he's dead?
So in the scene after, in Commander Adama's quarters, Starbuck and him toast their fallen comrades. Was this water to you? Are we still toasting water due to the shortage, or is this hooch?
I wanted to ask this to you, because just for visual aid for everybody, this is the rest of an iced coffee here. They're taking this kind of sip.
And just for the listeners at home, Ben has taken just the absolute smallest sip, and it has sort of rolled it around in his gap-toothed mouth, somehow managing to keep the liquid inside without spraying everywhere. It's a fucking miracle.
I did do that thing where I shot a squirt of it up in the air and then caught it back in my mouth, which is how I like to aerate my brown liquor when I'm sipping on it.
It's nice.
Yeah, that moment where they hold it in the mouth before swallowing it down and then going smooth.
I mean, this isn't the only time that Starbuck's been in a room with an Adama and has swirled it around before swallowing it.
Yeah, actually, I don't know if you noticed, she did lean over and spit it out into a potted plant.
You know what sucks about that is I have to somehow come up with a third joke like that at some point in the episode to stick the landing. We'll see if I can do it.
You made your own bed. I'm guessing that this is booze at this point.
You hope so, because it's like bad luck to toast with water, right? Isn't that what you hear?
Everybody learned that in The Fifth Element.
You can't drink a toast with water. In my sack, the ground.
Yes. Anyways, he wants her to start training new pilots because they've got a big gap in the flight roster now. And she is the only combat flight instructor left in the fleet. There's two other flight instructors, but they are civilians and they don't know combat tactics. So
kind of cutting when Starbuck is like, I'm sure we could promote a fucking school teacher to a fighter pilot instructor. It seems like that's what we're doing around here.
One of those, I guess technically you didn't voice a political opinion, but in a work context, you got danger close, and we'd like you to calm down on that.
So much of the scenes involving Starbuck and Commander Adama have to do with the guilt that she feels about Zach Adama's death and the feelings of empathy that Commander Adama has for Starbuck that run on incomplete information.
Yeah.
And there is like a drag to this that just hurts to watch. Like she is enduring something terrible because of what she knows to be the full truth. And there's something that makes what happens so much worse when like you're receiving grace from someone who shouldn't be giving it to you, like grace under false pretenses, you know?
Because he keeps saying like Zach's death had nothing to do with you. It was a freak accident. He passed basic flight training with flying colors. And so therefore it could have happened to anyone. And I love that these scenes keep asking the question, like, can she admit that she did not have nothing to do with what happened to Big Adama? Because she's already admitted it to his son.
You see her later, like, go from one of those recon drones and, like, take it to a bathtub with her. Is she going to do it? You know, those outlets next to the Battlestar tubs aren't grounded.
Yeah. Unfortunately, she just puts a couple of pieces of Wonder Bread into the drone and makes herself some toast. We get another little glimpse of this burning up in the atmosphere. Flash forward.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
But we don't know yet which direction we're flashing.
Yeah, we don't know where we are.
And now we're at the poker table with Starbuck, and it's gone to a heads up between her and Dr. Baltar again, and people are making side bets on who is going to win this hand in an interesting way. Is that a thing? Like, have you been at poker tables where people made side bets on how the hand was going to play?
This would only ever happen in a home game scenario. This would never, ever, ever happen in a card room or a casino.
Yeah.
But like in a loose, like social game, sure, you bet on all kinds of things.
All I do is
bets.
no matter what.
Everybody has a tell, and Starbucks are from horny memories.
We've seen scenes of ear caressing in Star Trek for years.
Mm-hmm.
Few of them as horny as this super extreme close-up on Starbuck's ear getting caressed by Zach Adama.
Shockingly horny. And she is remembering that. I feel like Dr. Baltar even kind of thanks her for like spilling the beans unwittingly to him about the strength of her hand.
I wish we knew whether Gaius Baltar was constantly playing poker with number 6 on his shoulder or not. I want to know, is that just how he plays poker, or is he doing this by himself? I think that says a lot about Gaius Baltar, and that we don't know that. Like, I wish it were that way instead.
Yeah, well, this is maybe the only scene I can think of so far in the series where he's not the one, like, having secret horniness go on in the presence of others, and somebody else is.
I mean, the pants tell the story, Ben. Did you take a look at those pants?
When Starbuck gets up and leaves the poker table without finishing the hand, seemed like that seat was wet.
That sucks. Leaving the table, leaving a hand without a showdown? What are you doing? It sucks.
Did you just turn off the TV at this point? You were too angry?
No, it's fine.
Has a poker game ever gone well on this ship?
That's a good question. We should start keeping track.
Yeah, it seems like we're 0 for 2 at least. Maybe 0 for 3. I can't remember.
The easiest job in the galaxy is the weatherman on Cylon-occupied Caprica, where it is still raining.
It's raining cats and dogs out there. I'd just as soon not go back in it.
And Cylon Boomer is along with Halo, where they're still trying to track down this military transponder beep that they got at the end of the last episode. And it's coming from a restaurant. So they go in there, and it seems like, you know, if you're a refugee from a nuclear holocaust, a restaurant might be a great place to find some supplies, but it doesn't seem like there are any, at least up top. But they knock over a bookcase, and there's a locked door, and down those stairs is like a fallout shelter heavy metal door. And through there, like, I love how easy it is to get through these doors. These aren't even locked. Here's a question I have about prepper life. You probably don't lock those doors, right? Because if the bombs that you imagine are going to start falling, you want to get right down in there with no delay.
Yeah. I love the idea of an urban prepper. Like,
Yeah.
I feel like the picture in my mind is like somebody that lives like pretty far off in the backcountry or has a plan to like bug out to somewhere very far away.
Mm-hmm.
But I love the idea of, the basement of your favorite Italian eatery
Yeah.
in the neighborhood is secretly a bunker and has a ton of radiation meds and a Costco shelf with a whole bunch of car batteries chained together to power a transistor radio.
Were these Capricorn Pop-Tarts they tear into in the foil? Because there's something so unique about Pop-Tart foil. Like, its specific crinkle, its specific reflection. Like, I thought for sure that's what this was. They are absolutely hyped about what's in this storeroom. It's great.
So good.
Tin Cubit says she takes him this time.
Yeah. You are joining the Colonial Fleet, boys and girls, not some after-school club. Pay attention.
She's laying it on a little thick. She's laying it on a little thick.
And can flip end for end in 0.35 seconds.
We cut up to the inside of the restaurant, a floor above, and it's still dumping rain outside, and a creepy hand starts kind of caressing the outside of the restaurant sexually. Of course, this is Six. Six just wants to fuck everything she touches, I feel like, including this restaurant.
She makes that streaky hand sound of when you like draw your fingers across glass. It's very loud.
Mm-hmm.
And speaking of streaking, President Roslin is wearing only a patient's gown for an examination with Doc Coddle up on the Battlestar.
Yeah.
And this is our introduction to Dr. Coddle. He seems a little bit bewildered that she has been so disinterested in her own preventative care. It appears President Roslin does not like going to the doctor and hasn't for some time.
Yeah, this guy does not hold back with his opinions and does not hold back with his use of tobacco products in the examination room either.
Smoke him if you got him. He's got him. I like this bit of backstory about Roslin. Like, the idea that she does not want to go through conventional cancer treatment because conventional cancer treatment sucks and it's painful and it's uncomfortable. And when her mom went through it, she saw that experience and she's like, that is not for me. I'd rather do something like stick a crystal under my bed or something. And Coddle thinks that her request for a different kind of medical treatment is a little bullshit, but to his credit, he is willing to put in a request for the herbs that she wants to use for her treatment.
How'd you feel about that? Like, they're talking about losing your hair and being immiserated in this specific way. And it sounds like a way that would sort of prevent someone from executing the duties of the presidency in its description to me.
The idea being that President Roslin wants to avoid conventional treatment so that she can continue to keep her cancer a secret.
That was sort of what I was wondering in this scene. I felt like there was some subtext to it, but the scene is so short that it didn't quite feel like it resolved one way or the other for me.
If that's the case, it calls into question whether or not the story she tells about her mother is the truth.
Yeah.
And the thing about Mary McDonnell is that she's such a good actor that, like, I never doubted for a second that this actually happened to President Roslin, and this is a reason why she doesn't want to do that. And, like, that's what I thought. I didn't think there was any dimensionality to this reason, but that's really interesting that could be a big part of this.
Yeah, and, like, it makes me wonder, like, is she even interested in that as a treatment, or is it just as a way to forestall what she knows she must ultimately do or something?
You know what's interesting about doctor characters in science fiction and in military shows and movies in general is like how they supersede rank, right?
Yeah.
Here's the fucking president in to get a breast exam and Coddle is like blowing cigarette smoke in her face. Like he doesn't care. You talk about the scarcity of resources, cigarettes and booze included. How about doctors?
Yeah. Not a lot of them.
And he's acting like it.
Would you mind?
I do, actually.
So we cut over to Starbuck calling her class into session with her new nuggets. And this is a term used for people who are, I guess, trainee pilots in this world.
You know what's weird about this scene is like on the wide shot, it is apparent that there are only 4 kinds of nuggets because some of them are the exact same shape.
Yeah.
It's weird.
Yeah, there's like circle one, there's like boot one.
Yeah. One that looks kind of like an eye.
Right, yeah, kind of like an italicized eye.
Yeah, yeah. And then that other one.
You can tell that they're all kind of made from the same slime.
Starbuck is not impressed with the pool of candidates she's got, and I like the interplay between her and Apollo here. Apollo's like, hey, this is the best we got. There's some potential here. Some diamonds in the rough, if you will. And Starbuck has got like that Arlie Ermy energy. Like she's ready to shit down some necks in this scene and scare some people straight.
Get on your feet, Nuggets.
And part of what is so terrifying is that all of these recruits are going to be flying Vipers on day one. This is not a pilot training where you get simulator time and read a book or do anything like that. Day one, in the cockpit, out in space.
A literal crash course.
Mm-hmm.
Part of this scene is also about establishing the non-military bearing of these nuggets. They have not been whipped into military shape yet, and so they are slack. They don't know the protocols of like when you stand at attention and stuff. They don't know when you don't giggle at something that Arlie Ermy style instructor is yelling at you. And in the grand tradition of Full Metal Jacket, one of these characters gets an embarrassing call sign right off the bat. Lieutenant Brendan Costanza gets dubbed Hot Dog. He really wanted T-Bone.
We'll be right back. Bodie Olmos.
Yeah, Bodie James Olmos.
This is a dominant gene. The dappled cheeks of an Olmos male. You know?
Yeah.
Looking great.
Yeah, it doesn't have a ton of acting credits, but I thought he did great in this.
Yeah, really cool. So we cut right on out to pilot practice, and there's a Viper pilot, Nug, who is practicing a carrier landing, and it has that modern carrier landing feel, doesn't it? Like calling the ball and which light you pay attention to and so forth. This ends up being a touch and go, but like, imagine a modern aircraft carrier instead with like a canopy on the top. It's crazy how much more dangerous it seems with that canopy.
Imagine your first day of flight training learning to land it on a carrier. That sounds insane.
It's as difficult as the Top Gun NES game, a game I found impossible.
And then this intercuts with Starbuck punching out of her crashing ship as it enters the atmosphere of a planet. So the danger of this is escalated even more by its proximity to those shots.
Yeah. Mission not accomplished, safe to say. There's an after-mission meeting, and Starbuck absolutely tears into them for what happened out there and basically fires them all. And Lee can't have this. These are their best recruits. What are you going to do?
Yeah.
What are you going to do now?
He orders her to go get them back.
Yeah.
And calls her on the guilt that he knows is driving this because he knows the dark secret about Zach.
Yeah.
And he goes and talks to Big Adama about the situation, W/R/T, all of the recruits being washed out by the combat flight instructor. And this is another one of those amazing, like, you got away with one writer's room scenes because they are talking past the issue of why Zach died in the crash and assuming that they know what the other one is talking about. And we know that they don't, but they think that they are talking about the same thing.
We saw a depiction of an entire planet be attacked with nuclear weapons and their population wiped out completely. This is as intense as that. This conversation.
Big Adama is like, she shouldn't be doing that. And little Adama's like, yeah, well, you know why she did it. And he's like, yeah, I mean, I know her very well. We've talked a lot. And little Adama's like, okay, well, so therefore, you get it. And Big Adama's like, wait, what?
When Lee steps into that pile of conversational shit, I want you to remember the look on his face here. Because in terms of face acting, when something terrible has been made clear to a character, Jamie Bamber plays Lee Adama and Edward James Olmos plays William Adama. Like, they are both as capable at doing this, whatever this is. Like, the nonverbal acting of a moment this big was so uncomfortable.
The nonverbal acting of accidentally spilling a splash of tea.
Yeah.
And I thought it was pretty classy of him to say, like, this is not my thing to tell. You got to talk to her about it. And I fucked up.
Here's the thing about, like, families that I don't quite get.
Not having experienced one.
Is like, isn't this actually a matter for two family members and not Starbuck?
I would say yes, except for the complicating thing we learn about her relationship with Zach a little bit later.
Yeah.
And that's, I think, intentional in the writing, that they haven't let slip just yet that they were engaged, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Or wait, have they?
I think that was a revelation here.
It's really good writing, whichever order it comes in.
Pack your gear, get the hell off my ship, you're done.
Starbuck gets hauled to Big Adama's quarters and assumes that Lee has betrayed her. I like hearing Edward James Olmos have to say the word nuggets a bunch of times. Just as a side note.
The nuggets.
I like that this scene follows the last scene. Like, bang, bang. There isn't an interstitial of inside the storeroom or whatever. Like,
right.
Something bad has happened. We see a consequence right away.
They don't cut to Tyrell and Boomer fucking for a little while before we get the resolution on this.
Yeah, we're going to ride on the anxiety a little bit, aren't we?
It's a really interesting scene. There's one moment, I don't know if you noticed this, but they froze the frame on Edward James Olmos at one point when he like learns the truth from her. Like, they cut to his close-up as he's processing it, and for like a quarter of a second, they froze the frame at the end of it, and I think it was just because they didn't have enough coverage before she turns her head.
Really?
Yeah.
I did not notice that.
I feel like they could have gotten out of it, you know, like having edited a lot of video, like I don't quite understand the choice.
So you rewound it over and over again, and this was a choice.
I went back and to the left a bunch of times. And
wow.
It seems to have been either a choice or a mistake that persists for a long time, because this is probably like the fourth or fifth time this was released, right? Now that it's on streaming.
Yeah.
He learns that Zach should have failed basic flight, but she passed him because she was so in love with him that she was willing as a flight instructor to look past the fact that he fucking sucked.
The magic trick of what Edward James Olmos does in this scene is that his facial expression contains multitudes. Like, from shot to reverse shot, I couldn't really pin down what he was feeling, and if it was just one thing at all. And it's not like his expression changed.
It seems to contain like sympathy, but also like betrayal and rage, and also like, I need you to fucking button your emotional hangover up and do your fucking job. And like, that triangle contains every conceivable emotion, you know?
When the scene ends on Adama saying some version of, you better get out of here before I do something I regret, it seems forgivable in the sense that that's just the exact second that wheel of emotion stopped, and it could have stopped on any other emotion at that precise moment.
Right.
What I'm trying to say is, like, to me, that statement didn't seem like one of like true violence and danger. It just was chance.
Yeah.
In a really interesting way.
We cut back to the crash that Starbuck is experiencing. I think at this point she is actually like ejecting from the cockpit of her Viper. And then we cut back to the present, and she enters the room Nuggets and tells them they have all been returned to flight status, and that is great news to them.
Starbuck's like, wait, open up that duffel again. You were gonna steal your fucking flight suit? This is not a gift shop.
We have very few bottles of booze, very few cigarettes, and very few flight suits left.
You know what? Like, would you want to wear someone else's flight suit also? I kind of get that.
That their charred corpse was just taken out of.
Who cares? I don't need your hand-me-downs anyway.
But boy, how happy are these Nuggets? They're so happy to stay. Pretty awesome.
Just pumped. So, yeah, we get another training flight. This time it is Chuckles, Cat, and Hot Dog. And in the command center, Tig is very impressed that Starbuck is actually doing her fucking job. And the mood seems to be kind of improving around here until a whole bunch of Cylons show up. And it's 8-4, and only one of the 4 humans is an experienced combat pilot. So they're trying to return to the mothership, and, you know, the mothership is trying to scramble a bunch of fighters to go out and protect them. But it's looking like the Cylons are getting pretty close. So Starbuck turns around and sort of defends the retreat a little bit. And one of the Nuggies, Hot Dog, decides to turn around and join her in that rearguard action.
It's funny how it plays on the bridge of the Battlestar, right? Because when Starbuck turns around, I think the feeling is suicide mission. And the feeling on the Adama's minds are like some sort of martyr mission, like some sort of trade. Like Starbuck's guilt is going to be exchanged in her death for saving all of the Nuggets' lives. And somehow maybe that will be an exchange that makes her awful truth matter in a different way. I don't know. Like I read it as that, and it may just be me projecting, but like on the bridge, there's a moment where they're like, well, this is going to go really bad for her because she's so outnumbered. No one cares as much about Hot Dog, who is just in there like flying past Starbuck and taking his shots, and he's experiencing the excitement of shooting a Cylon Raider, and that's fun for him. But he is no fighter pilot.
I mean, in a way, Commander Adama stands to lose another son today, doesn't he?
Yeah, it's really true. Hot Dog can't hang, though. He's sidelined pretty quickly, and the numbers remain against Starbuck, and her Viper is damaged in the process, and all of those intercut scenes of Starbuck ejecting from her ship have led to this moment where we're back in the present, and her ship is tumbling toward the atmosphere of a planet nearby, and she hits the ejection seat and lands into a to be continued title.
Did you like this episode, Adam?
So say we all. So say we all.
I was in agony at the to be continued part.
That's kind of what you want to feel, right?
Yeah, that much is true. So many of these episodes have been about the personal traumas that our main characters contain. And, you know, it's funny, you think you know the depth of Starbuck's personal grief and her relationship to Zach Adama's death, and you know, you get an episode like this, and it's just so much deeper than you knew about.
Yeah.
It's striking. And that moment between her and William Adama in his quarters was so powerful. You know, she had to do that thing people do when they're nervous and feeling cornered and stuff. She just like can't stop talking, almost because she doesn't want to hear what Commander Adama would say, like to fill the space out of self-defense. And just the direction of staying tight on Adama for the reacts. I just thought that scene was so powerful, among so many powerful scenes of a show that's only 4 episodes long for us. Just really great work. Like, I don't say that because those moments are pleasant. Like, they're powerfully uncomfortable in a way that I really enjoy in a fucked up way. Just a great episode. Really strong stuff. What about you, Ben?
Yeah, I thought this one was pretty fun. I will say that, like, the way I'm watching this to review it here on the show is it's tricky to, like, both enjoy it as a show and also write the notes because, like, so many times I'm, like, looking down to, like, write something down and then I look up and I'm like, fuck.
Yeah.
Like, I kind of felt like this when we first started reviewing Star Trek Discovery. Just the pace of play is so different in modern TV, and this is so much more modern paced of a television show than we get when we are back in the 80s reviewing an episode of TNG.
I think we're doing a good job of, like, up top just kind of constructing here's how this episode functions. It's going to drop a lot of these scenes in so that we don't have to be so descriptive as we go.
Yeah, but that said, like, I don't know which of the scenes it's cutting around to at the beginning are going to be those ones. So in my note-taking process, I'm, like, actually kind of trying to be conscientious of the fact that I'm, like, enjoying this show less than I probably would be if I was just sitting with my hands in my lap.
Oh, you should take fewer notes.
Yeah, maybe so.
I want you to enjoy this show. Let's make enjoying the show a priority. What do you say?
Wow, that sounds good. So next week, the recap will be wrong.
I think we got each other's backs on the story beats.
Yeah, but a really solid episode, and I also want to see if we have any really solid Priority 1 messages.
Priority 1 message from Starfleet coming in on secured channel.
Okay, Adam, here is a personal message of the first priority. It is from Daniel, and it is to FODs, and it goes like this. To the FODs who have not discovered Friendly Fire, please give it a listen. Ben and Adam are righteous, reflective, and ridiculous in this moribund podcast. I'm imploring that it be resurrected. April 2025 might be a good launch date. Like Book in the final season, I am inserting myself where I don't belong. Thanks for the consideration.
Daniel, why April 2025?
Yeah.
Is that an April Fool's Day reference?
I don't know. I mean, it would give us plenty of runway to get ready to relaunch a show like that.
We get messages like this all the time. Friendly Fire meant a lot to a lot of people, and it meant a lot to me. And I think people should know what a serious decision it was to stop doing that show. It wasn't something that we took lightly.
Yeah.
It wasn't something that we did because we're bad friends, which is a fucking joke.
Yeah.
Like, we made that show, and it meant a lot to us, and it was incredibly hard to decide not to do it anymore.
It couldn't have happened at a worse time that we shot away a third of our airplane mid-flight, financially speaking. Not to mention all the other reasons that it sucked, the way things went down. But yeah, I mean, I think you and I are having conversations all the time about the Friendly Fire-shaped hole in our hearts, and maybe something cool will come out of the ashes of that. Who knows?
Yeah, I think so too. I mean, I am very proud of the work that I personally did on that show, and I am also proud of the work you did on that show.
The feeling's mutual, bud.
It died before its time, and it's too bad.
All right, well, if you'd like to get us talking about something you want us to talk about, or, wish somebody a happy birthday or promote something, get a Priority 1 message. It's $100 for a personal message and $200 for a commercial message, and we appreciate all of them.
Sure do.
Hey, Adam.
What's that, Ben?
Did you Cylon detect yourself an Edward Larkin?
Edward Larkin! I don't know. Is it too easy to say hot dog? Hot dog's the fuck around pilot in the meeting room. Hot dog's the guy who turns it around, and the funniest part about hot dog is hot dog going ahead of Starbuck's Viper. Like, that is just amazing. Like, he steals a kill from Starbuck.
Yeah.
Is there
He's having a great time.
I never would have bet on that. What a long shot.
Yeah.
Also, did it seem to you like his Viper also tumbled toward the atmosphere? What became of him?
That is a question I don't feel like I resolved for myself. Like it seemed like the last Cylon Raider and Starbuck's Viper bonked into each other and started tumbling toward the planet, and Hot Dogs was disabled and unable to fly. But yeah, will we ever find out whence Hot Dog? Who knows?
I hope we do the next episode. I hope the next episode is a hot dog bottle episode.
I hope we just pivot into Hot Dog Summer.
Ketchup. More ketchup.
Yeah, me too. What about you, Ben?
No, I'm joining you on the Hot Dog Square. I think that's the Larkin of the episode for sure.
You know, and like the timing of this episode is like right around July 4th. This is a hot dog cookout season where hot dogs are the topic on today's episode of Hot Cylon Summer.
Yeah.
What a coincidence.
Oh man, weenies and teenies. Everybody gets one.
What if you already have a teeny weenie?
I mean, we can skip over you, or you can have a martini and a weenie. You know, up to you. Nobody has to do anything they don't want to do during Hot Dog Summer.
As long as Ben is the one enduring for the rest of the group, that's the one thing that needs to happen.
Yeah.
All right, it's time for the hit segment Warning Boys, Ben. That's where we read a message from an FOD that serves to welcome and invite a brand new viewer into the show and also repel the type of person that just wouldn't get what we're trying to do here. Ben, what do we got in the message box?
Prepare a buoy and launch it when ready.
Warning, boys.
An emergency buoy. A warning buoy.
We got a great message on Mastodon here from Q at friendsofdesoto.social. Wearing my hashtag greatest trek shirt out today and was stopped by a Costco employee. They were asking me what it meant, so I explained and he referred me to another Star Trek podcast I have yet to check out, Infinite Diversity. Always fun to meet a Trekkie in the wild.
How about that?
That's great. Trading Star Trek podcast. So maybe a Costco employee is now listening to this, and Q is now listening to Infinite Diversity out there.
You know, I find that has happened to me a couple times before. I'll tell a person that I host a hit Star Trek podcast, and they'll tell me about a show that I should listen to. Cool.
Speaking of Hot Dog Summer, yesterday I was outside of an Ace Hardware wearing a T-shirt of Top Dog, a beloved chain of sausage and hot dog restaurants in the East Bay where I grew up. And an old man wanted to stop and talk to me about hot dogs for a while. And I was like, God, it's like wearing like a baseball hat with a sports team that you don't actually follow. Like it's a little bit risky. Like, I mean, I can talk about Top Dog till I'm blue in the face and I'm happy to.
Yeah.
But I also didn't realize I was like inviting conversation by wearing that shirt.
I mean, it's all fun and games when you're wearing a Top Dog shirt until you run into someone wearing a Power Bun shirt. Whoa.
Well, thanks to everyone who talks about the show online or leaves a nice review. And if you do it, we appreciate it. And you might hear your words coming out of our mouths here on this segment. But for now, we got to throw the keys of this episode over to Rob Adler, our social media manager and sometimes editor of this show. Take it away, Rob.
Rob, the hot dog of our podcast. Try not to get yourself killed, Rob.
No promises. Greatest Trek is an Uxbridge Shimoda podcast on the Maximum Fun Network. It's hosted by Ben Harrison and Adam Pranica. It's produced by Wynde Priddy and edited this week by Rob Adler. Next week on Hot Cylon Summer, it's Battlestar Galactica Season 1, Episode 5, You Can't Go Home Again. A big thanks to the Friends of DeSoto and Maximum Fun members who support Greatest Trek on a monthly basis. At just $5 a month, you can get instant access to a massive backlog of bonus content, plus a new bonus episode every single month. To become a member, just head to MaximumFun.org/join. Thank you to Nick Ditmore, who created the show art, and Adam Ragusia, who composed the theme music. A big thanks to the car daddy, Bill Tilley. Be sure to follow us on our social media pages at Greatest Trek. And when talking about the show, use the hashtag Greatest Trek. If you haven't already, sign up for our newsletter, The Greatest Newsletter, where you'll get extra updates from Ben and Adam, touring announcements, special podshop.biz discounts, and amazing features like the Nuck of the Month. Link in the description to sign up. Thanks for listening. We'll see you next week on Greatest Trek.
Maximum Fun,
a worker-owned network
of artist-owned shows.
supported
Directly
by you.